Thank you, Andrew, for the introduction. And I'd also like to thank you personally for the counsel you've provided me and the team at UK Active, especially during this crisis. We really couldn't do it without you, and your kindness means a lot to us. And thank you to everyone who is taking time out to join us this afternoon. Also, a huge thank you to all our speakers for joining the summit over the coming month and for the stimulating discussion and cultivating innovation that is so important to our sector. To start with, I think it's important to address the second national lockdown in England that will start tonight. Since the reopening of fitness and leisure facilities from July, the sector collectively came together to collaborate every single week to build the case and track record of safety and professionalism of our sector. In the face of frustration, delay, and a lack of financial support, we dusted ourselves off and came together to advocate for the sector. UK Active has brought organisations together, led the advocacy for the sector and supported our members. And I'm very proud that UK Active has represented and championed the sector during this difficult time and fought numerous local battles. In response, our members have displayed responsibility, sensitivity to people's fears and anxieties, and also great innovation so that people across the country have been able to rely on our services at such an acute time for our collective health. UK Active's Open Doors programme has built bridges between schools and local community providers, providing safe spaces during school holidays for the most vulnerable children to play, eat and socialise at a time of extreme isolation and instability for young people. And it's been fulfilling to witness the sector come together to collaborate on the evidence to allow UK Active to make the case for reopening and argue its case as an essential service. This was amplified during the Great British Week of Sport and National Fitness Day campaigns, which showed how popular and desired physical activity is in communities all across the UK. On National Fitness Day itself, a record number of people were inspired to be active, with 19 million people joining the celebrations, smashing the campaign target of 10 million and making it the most successful National Fitness Day to date. Added to this, a national poll showed a record of 8.7 million children took part in physical activity on National Fitness Day, an increase of more than 6 million on 2019. And this was partly inspired by schools taking part in a synchronised 10 minutes of activity at 10 a.m, the 10 at 10 initiative. In all, it was a pretty phenomenal result. And these kind of campaign weeks show how much potential we have and the power of our sector. Furthermore, we've seen our members stay open in Scotland and Northern Ireland as the restrictions tightened, and throughout all the decisions in England to take areas into Tier 3, including the U-turn in Liverpool. Hence, the overwhelming frustration of this weekend's decision. As it stands, gyms and public leisure spaces in England will be closed until December the 2nd in England. And while we have great sympathy for the Westminster government making difficult choices at this time, this decision is incredibly disappointing on many levels. There are many people all over the country who have been thinking how to get fitter and healthier along with their families. And they would have been looking to our sector to support them during this tough winter to do just that. And it does feel like such a misstep that the government has not heeded our strong and continuous calls to categorise our sector as essential and acknowledge the astonishing safety standards that our sector has sustained throughout this period. I fear that this will have severe repercussions for the nation. We know from Sport England's recent Active Live survey that activity levels fell sharply during the first lockdown. Also, analysis from SAGE has warned us that health inequalities among some vulnerable and Black Asian minority ethnic groups will increase during the winter lockdown period. I share the frustrations of members who play an essential role for communities across the country and have proven their ability to make their facilities COVID safe. I understand the real anxiety that this second national lockdown will lead to business failure and major job losses within the sector. And I fear the damage that this lockdown will mean for the physical and mental well-being of the millions of people of all ages and backgrounds that depend on our sector. I also fear the new lockdown measures brought in to combat this crisis could well fuel another crisis in inactivity and mental health, unless we see a plan for addressing this. To this end, myself and the team will continue to work tirelessly to represent and champion the needs of our members at this time, doing everything within our power and influence to convince our government of the essential service our sector provides. However, I also believe that genuine change can only start with an honest appraisal of how we feel as a sector. This COVID storm has battered the whole of sport and physical activity sector, leading to much damage and loss. My personal story is that of the sector, and it's heartbreaking to see former colleagues and friends lose their jobs, clubs, organisations, and their fight for survival. And I know that this is reflected in many stories across the sector. In the midst of the storm, one thing is really important, and that is the support of our government. We need to believe our government has our back, that it understands the scale of the challenge that we face, that it recognises the support we require, that it values the considerable role our sector plays in the physical, mental and social well-being of communities and people all over the country. It's with a heavy heart that I feel there's a growing number across sport and physical activity who don't truly believe the government appreciates this right now, and we must work together to change that. Today, I want to call upon government to urgently bring together a diverse set of leaders from across the sector during this period of national lockdown, to have a real dialogue on both the survival of the sector and the full role it can play in our society's renewal. It needs a strategy. The government must develop the plans that I shared, along with 150 sector leaders with the Prime Minister in September. We need a recovery plan that brings together taxation and regulatory reform alongside investment that supports the sector to work its way out of the crisis. Furthermore, we need a fundamental shift in how our sector is valued across Whitehall. I have no doubt this can be achieved with sufficient will and energy from all sides, and this November lockdown is the moment to do just this. Failure to do so could be a tragic missed opportunity. It's really difficult to reflect right now at a time when you feel you're in a daily battle for survival as this crisis continues unabated. Yet we should strive for that time, and we should take stock of what we've learned and how these learnings drive us forward as things change. I believe we're much better equipped than we were in March to deal with this crisis. We're in negotiations with the government, central, devolved and local across the UK. And we were in negotiations for each tier 3 closure prior to this national lockdown, which successfully saw our sector stay open. That showed how local leadership across England understood the value, the role of our members and the role they play in our communities. And at the heart of this change has been data and evidence we use to engage decision makers. Before the 25th of July, we had passion and anecdotes. But since the 25th of July, we've combined these assets with evidence, clearly showing our sector driving an extremely low prevalence of COVID. For too many years, the sector has effectively been left naked in our negotiations with government without sufficient evidence to support our calls. And one major lesson we must take away from this crisis is that sharing data, investment in evidence and research will go a long way to determine how we're perceived, understood and valued. We mustn't, at any cost, deviate from this path we're now on. We must also reflect on how standards will play an even bigger role in our sector going forward. In this period of great uncertainty, trust is everything. Trust of our members and consumers of our facilities. Trust of our lawmakers who determine our ability to operate. Trust of our future partners that we do provide an essential service. And this is just so much more than health and safety, but encompasses major societal issues that can define reputation. That's why I'm delighted that UK Active is working on a new sector standard. This standard, which covers the full scale of our sector from operators, suppliers and children's activity providers, will be developed with key partners and stakeholders, and crucially, with our members and customers. We'll consult on and develop this standard with the aim to roll out from spring 2021. The Active Standard will provide reassurance for customers that they're receiving the best possible service from UK Active members, support the management of reputational risks that occur from incidents, and help members access new partnerships across the wider health agenda. Fundamentally, it will provide each member with recognition that they've met a consistent set of standards. The ability to enhance a standard across the sector by capitalising on the collaboration of all sector channels shows the needs of a defined standard to evidence quality to stakeholders and wider society. The impact of the standard will ensure that members and the industry's reputation is protected moving forward, while further raising the value of our work. The Active Standard will have an all-encompassing, flexible approach, and we need this to consistently maintain the standards necessary to enhance the continued professionalism of the sector. Finally, history tells us that major moments such as this lead to changes in society. This crisis has exposed national health inequalities, along with burgeoning issues of physical and mental resilience and well-being. Health and fitness must form the bedrock upon which our society rebuilds itself. By investing in our health, we will gain greater resilience in the face of the next pandemic and reduce its impact on the NHS. Not only that, our physical and mental health will influence our happiness and well-being, our ability to be productive human beings, and affect how we contribute to the communities we live in. I've no doubt that the government will need to place more emphasis on addressing these issues, and it has begun to do so with early development of its obesity plans. But more needs to be done. The question for us is how we react to this change. Tasked with the required areas for progress across data, evidence and standards, I believe we can lead and not observe the coming change. With this reform, we can lead the change we seek and forge a relationship with the NHS that takes root and makes us an extension of its services. In 2016, at this very UK Active event in Westminster, Simon Stevens stood before leaders of the physical activity sector and shook a bottle of pills at us. This marked a seminal moment for the physical activity sector. He threw down the gauntlet to our sector. If you could pack all of that into a magic pill, it would be a worldwide pharmaceutical blockbuster, he said. But the label on the side of this treatment here is activity and exercise. The message was clear. We know the power of your product. Now show us how we can use it to its greatest effect. Now, we've not yet met that challenge, but we have begun to. We have to make real links to the NHS that have not existed previously and show that our facilities are safe places to be active. James Saunderson, Director of Personalised Care at NHS England, has said he's delighted to be working closely with UK Active, the National Academy for Social Prescribing and Sport England, to look at innovative models for the fitness and leisure industry to support social prescribing. Now is the time when the nation needs a relationship between the physical activity sector and the NHS. UK Active will create the foundation from which partners can accelerate the nation's recovery in each locality. The fitness and leisure industry is well placed to support people with increasingly complex problems to be more active, not just physically, but also socially and mentally. The leisure sector is ready to scale solutions for people with complex health problems and vulnerabilities to be more active by scaling an accessible portfolio of interventions, programs and services with targeted links to healthcare and behavioural change to drive users to these programs. This will provide a clear link and set the foundation for integration on national and local levels between primary care and the fitness and leisure sector and increase investment in this area. So in conclusion, it's a revolutionary time to work in our sector. I know that there are many challenges on the horizon, but the opportunities to come are vast. The main thought that I leave you with is to continue collaboration as a sector, keep believing and showing the value of all your organisations to society. And in spite of the struggles we presently face, keep your mind on the bigger goals ahead. I understand that this is a difficult time for all of us. The team at UK Active is here to support you every step of the way. I hope you enjoy Summit and are inspired by some of the amazing lineup of speakers that we have. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Thank you.